Well, good afternoon, friends. Sam here. This is the eighth in the series of short book reviews of significant books in my library. I'm going to. There you go. Hall of Mirrors: Power, Witchcraft, and Caste in Colonial Mexico. It's by Laura Lewis, published by Duke University Press in 2003. It's an academic book, but it's not written in a deeply academic language. It's quite accessible. Um, when we talk about the witch persecutions of the 16th and 17th centuries, we generally only discuss what happened in Europe or in New England. But the persecutions were found in all of the European colonies as well as the metropolises. They took different forms in each area. And if we look outside of the usual histories, um, this gives us insight into the roles of magic in these different contexts, particularly as cultures came together in hybrid and mestizo forms. Laura Lewis's Hall of Mirrors demonstrates how magical practices acted as means for the subordinated peoples of Mexico, both enslaved and free blacks and indigenous people, to both resist and to mediate power relationships in the colonies. She talks about how magic use was a factor in the development of caste in Mexico in the Spanish colonial setting. Um, Witchcraft was an arena in which indigenous people and women had some authority. Uh, because witchcraft was part of and not apart from the larger world, she argues it was as central to colonial reality as labor practices or the civil legal code and controls. Um, in Mexico, as in Quebec, the role of the Catholic Church, which wished to convert indigenous peoples, led to some degree of autonomy and higher status for them, and for the mestizos born of marriages between Spanish and indigenous people. Now, in New Spain, witches were never executed, and torture was not used against them. Just as in Spain, witches were often relocated to new villages where their reputations would not precede them. Uh, she says punishment included the occasional whipping, but more often fines, public confession and humiliation, temporary exile, and confinement to the feminized spaces of home, church, and hospital. She works with records from a range of colonial courts, demonstrating how the Indians came to be seen as masters of witchcraft. Magic's power drew on gendered and caste distinctions to challenge colonial hierarchy. Now, although we are familiar with the Americanized idea of race, in which it's purely a matter of skin color, and there's the white people, the brown people, the black people. The notion of caste, which is probably more appropriate in dealing with what happened in many other parts of the world around racial distinctions and group distinctions, um, is particularly pertinent here because the the caste distinctions between blacks, mulattoes, mestizos, and the way that these intermediate groups mediated between Spanish and Indians were all enforced in law in Mexico. Um, Now she brings to life the personal stories inside these legal cases, which is also very interesting. It's always valuable when you can hear the voices of people in history. Makes the history real. I mean, these were people, living lives as we do. Um, okay, yeah. The This book, like I said, is published by an academic press, but the strong focus on people telling their own stories makes it engaging and readable. And it's a history that most of us know very little about. I mean, I found it quite interesting to see a whole different racial and class hierarchy than what is typically presented as, like in Canada, Indigenous people at a specific legal standing, which was separate from the colonizers or the enslaved peoples. And the hybrid magic that developed in Mexico came as a result of this set of differences and adjustments. The European magic that came over with the colonizers was blended with indigenous magic because indigenous people were seen as being particularly capable at magic use. But it also added in a strong dash of ideas from the enslaved peoples, particularly as more and more free blacks came to be part of the colonial atmosphere, the colonial population. So, an interesting, complex, nicely written book, Hall of Mirrors by Laura Lewis. I'll recommend it. Take care now.